Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday. Happy beginning of February. And welcome to the Welcome to Asgard. As I said there. Welcome back to the Welcome to Asgard podcast, episode 595. We're just 5 episodes away, 5 weeks away from hitting episode 600, which is insane to me. But we are where we are, 595. It's been awesome. Crazy how time has just flown by over these last several years. I say it a lot, but every time I look at the channel, I look at the longevity of it, meaning I did not think it was going to nearly get to even the point it is right now, let alone to last as long as it did, or for me to even be able to go for as long as we have been going. It always is very humbling. So again, thank you all for your continued love and support. But we got some stuff to talk about tonight because, of course, tonight is first, liturgically, right, beginning of February here. We're getting very close to the season of Lent starting up. So we are in the little season of Septuagesima, which is the 17 days prior to the start of Lent. So a great opportunity for us to start to think about what are some things that we should probably be giving up this year over the course of Lent. Some things like maybe sweets or bad habits, various things. And then also, what are the things that we can add on to our routine? Additional prayers, works of charity, etc. So just going to get that public service announcement out at the very beginning. So a happy and blessed Septuagesima, everyone out there. And actually, I need to change my background colors. Because since we are now in Septuagesima, we're back to the purple, guys. We are back to the purple lights, which honestly I prefer. I love green, but I feel like the purple lights tend to look a little bit better. I don't know exactly why, but it is what it is. Of course, I make this plan here and now, and the lights for my office are not showing up as conveniently as I was hoping that they would. There we go. There they are. And then let's go ahead and put up the bam purple. There we go. We are rocking the purple tonight. Gonna have to work on making that a deeper purple, but we are still rocking the purple nonetheless. So anyway, blessed Septuagesima, everyone out there. It's also Candlemas, traditionally a time where the faithful will bring their candles to Mass, and then there's a special blessing for that. So all the candles that you'll use throughout the course of the year. It's a beautiful Mass. It's a Mass for the purification of Our Lady. Also in today's calendar, usually more so known as the presentation of our Lord. But the purification of Our Lady, Candlemas. A beautiful time and marking the official end of the Christmas/Epiphany season, which is awesome. And again, the start of the Septuagesima season itself. So we're talking about that, of course, already. And really the focus of the show tonight is going to be all about Markiplier. That's right, Markiplier, who is a YouTuber and has made his directorial debut, starring in his first feature-length film to get a theatrical distribution in the movie titled Iron Lung. And let's just say, Markiplier and the entire cast and crew and everyone behind Iron Lung made a huge splash this weekend. Not only did they come in, now we can say officially, at the number 2 spot domestically, not only were they the second biggest opening internationally as well, if you look at the total box office for both the Disney distributed produced movie, Send Help, Sam Raimi's film, up against Iron Lung. Even internationally, even globally, the numbers were not too far removed from each other. So not only did it get the number 2 spot there, but it had more money per theater than Send Help. And it was distributed by Markiplier. It was distributed by a company that he established for the sole purpose of distributing this movie. So he was able to do a Terrifier, right? Remember how the Terrifier franchise has made a name for itself for making movies with very small budgets and making so much more return on investment with people going to see their movies, to the point where the most recent Terrifier film actually got a pretty wide theatrical release and actually did very, very well, especially with a micro budget. Well, for Markiplier's first movie, this is a huge win. It's a huge victory for him, a huge victory for his fans, for his subscribers, who obviously, put their money where their mouth was and went out and to actually support him and to support his movie. But also, It was a huge shot across the bow, I think. And we've already seen these shots being made by the likes of Terrifier, amongst others, right? More so in the horror genre that we tend to see this kind of movement. But the fact that we're seeing now someone on YouTube with a massive subscriber base actually able to motivate an audience to go see a movie, spending a good, $2-3 million producing the film. We don't know exactly how much on distribution. We can assume that there was probably some cost there for marketing at the very least. Probably not heavily marketed, but still, nonetheless, marketing costs always, take up a little bit of money. And the fact that we're looking at this, and if it follows the traditional spending pattern of most movies, and this is looking at more like mainstream big budget films, or just even smaller films even from major studios, right, which tend to spend a certain amount of money on their films and on their marketing budgets. You look at all that, and you have a film that has already broken even, has already made profit, is continuing to add to its profit. And I mean, Lord Almighty, it's very impressive. It is very, very impressive to see what they have been able to do. And I think it's a giant shot at Hollywood. It shows us, as it says in the title of the stream, how unnecessary Hollywood is. Because what Markiplier has shown is that if you have a vision, if you have a passion, and if you have a fan base that is, wanting to be basically given what they want, that they'll actually go out and support it. Imagine if some even smaller indie directors, or even just more mainstream directors, imagine if they were like, you know what, screw the Hollywood system. They could make their passion projects. They could do the things that they wanted to do without having to go that route. And they could find success. If, of course, again, they give their audience what they want, but also they spend as much as they need to, not as much as they can. That, of course, being a shot at James Cameron. Just because you can spend a lot of money, just because you can do all of those things, doesn't necessarily mean that you should do all those things, especially since that film and that franchise is already on the course of, again, barely breaking even in this most recent release and trending towards eventually not making their money back financially in any of their future theatrical releases if the trends continue. And we got now 2 films worth of data to look at there to see. But going back to Markiplier for a second, right? It is darn impressive. And so we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what was happening with the numbers this weekend. There was some speculation. Of course, people were kind of, as they typically do, spreading misinformation and conspiracy theories about like, oh man, Hollywood was shutting them down from reporting. I didn't believe that to be true. It's just, to me, it was of the same level as those that still to this day claim that Disney was buying tickets for Captain Marvel, and that's the only reason why it made $1 billion. It's like, look, am I saying that Disney did not give certain tickets away like they do for any film? No. But enough for it to push it to $1 billion and to make a big difference? No, I'm sorry. That's nonsense. Just because your own local theater wasn't full doesn't mean that other theaters across the country were not potentially full, as I said at the time. Same thing also with this one. It's like, I thought it was weird. I thought it was like, okay, this is odd that the numbers aren't being reported, but again, maybe it was because again, at the time I didn't know, but I was like, maybe this is a special release. Maybe it just got released on Thursday, Friday. That's why I got a wide, distribution in that capacity for being a much smaller film, independently produced and distributed. But no, it turns out even Markiplier, right, actually, made his word on that one, saying, hey, look, I have no reason to understand and explain why these numbers aren't being reported. But he even said, like, I don't even know. Am I supposed to report these things? How does this actually work in the long run? So the numbers has come now out and responded and explained what happened, and makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. But anyway, that's what we talk about tonight. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you smash the rumble button as well. Let's go ahead and say hello to our people in the chat tonight. We got Snortopupus Cuber, who's here at 644, saying, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortopupus? He then goes on to say, hello to me, hello to you. I also see Kimberly G, Killian Shadow Cat in the chat. What's going on? Kimberly G, saying hello to the Snortopupus. She is a member here on the channel, longtime member here. Jeremy Zakowski saying, evening, Odin, everyone on here. Good evening to you, Jeremy. Welcome back. Always great to have you here. We got Laura, the Mother Major General, Shorty Short. Hello all. Hello to you, Laura. Thank you for being here. We got Jazz Penny hanging out as well. What's going on, Jazz Penny? Saying ahoy, ahoy to you. We got Prince Screen, who is a member here on the channel, saying, hail, Odin in chat. Hail to you. Thank you for being here. Forever Sci-Fi, who is a member. Hail to you, good sir. Hail to you. Hello. General Wingster says, I'm still stuck in ice. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope Hope that y'all are okay. And for everyone impacted by the recent winter storms, I hope that you are all safe. A lot of snow more recently. Many people still impacted by the ice storm from even just a couple of weeks ago. We got a little bit of snow here in our area, and it was beautiful for the very beginning of the day. Got to play with the kids outside with the snow for a little bit too. Unfortunately, it was so cold, it was still not necessarily the best snow for making like snowballs or anything like that, but it was a little bit better than the snow we had, a couple weeks ago, which shouldn't have even happened in the first place. But we got a good dusting, and unfortunately, by the time the sun came out, it evaporated basically everything. And I thought, like, oh, maybe we have just enough on the ground for it to be able to stay for a little while. Cars were covered as well, and it was beautiful. But as soon as the sun came out, it all evaporated. It made me very, very sad, especially when it was still in the 20s outside. We got the Last Relic hanging out. What's going on, Last Relic? Welcome back. We got Cthulhu hanging out. What's going on, Cthulhu? Saying, good evening and happy Groundhog. It's also Groundhog Day. That's right. That is right. That conspiracy nonsense. People believe that groundhog. Jodo Wingstar, Odin Steven was wondering who this Mark Pair of Pliers guy was. Is that true? Is that true? Oh, Markiplier. In fact, I would actually say that because Steven's a youngin' in college, he probably knows more about Markiplier than I do. All right, we got Kincaid and Rumsky saying, I've come to a major decision. I've decided to give up bad movies for Lent. Oh my goodness, Kincaid and Rumsky. So are you finally going to be giving up the Meg 2? Oh man. Big breaking news, everybody. Kincaid and Rumsky's finally giving up on the Meg 2. At least for Lent. All right, Forever Sci-Fi saying Kroger has been selling Patsky for a month now. Of course, they're jelly donuts with larger price tag. Ah, gotcha. We got Caveat Ties hanging out. What's going on, Caveat Ties? Abomination hanging out over on the Green Machine. What's going on? Abomination saying, hey, y'all. Hey, what's going on? I also, Caveat Ties, have no interest in the Terrifier movies. I appreciate them for what they are, though. I appreciate the fact that they were able to make those films on a budget. The first film, like on a very small budget. And we're able to still get an audience and get people's attention and make money off of it. And every film have now gotten a bigger budget every time, but also bigger box office release, bigger total numbers. And the fact that they're working outside of the Hollywood machine and working more directly with the actual movie theaters themselves, I hope that what it does, like I hope what the Terrifier films have done, I hope that what Markiplier has done, it helps the independent content creators, again, people in the audience, people who know how much money that they have any right to spend on anything, are able then to start to do things on their own, to say, oh, look, it can be done. You can work outside of the Hollywood system. As I was mentioning in my box office breakdown video, you don't have to shill and give up your soul, like Chris Stuckman did, just to try to get a Hollywood movie made. Because it turns out it doesn't really pay very well to do so. Especially when he still has a very large channel, but Lord knows he lost a lot of people. And has lost even more since he started to sell ads for loan shark companies and online gambling. How far he has fallen. But no, instead what you got for Markiplier, and again, I'm not saying he's perfect either, but the fact is that he self-funded this movie. He distributed this movie, which is already a tricky thing in the first place. It means that he and the people that he hired for the company were working directly with theaters to get the movie to be seen in theaters. Got an international release also. It got like a few $1 million actually from all the international markets, which for any movie, especially an independent film from an unknown distributor, is just, again, darn impressive. Let's see. Abomination saying, I love the huge tirade Mark's going on with number one. Wants to edit clips and superimpose number one in random places. Yeah, I only watched one video more recently, and he was getting very emotional, obviously very moved by the amount of support and love that he was getting, even from people that maybe didn't necessarily like the movie, but still appreciated what he was doing. So, Mr. Harwick saying, did you know that the way Markiplier got Iron Lung into theaters is to get his subscriber fans to call up theaters and pester them into showing the movie? Again, that's unfortunately how it has to happen, though. And sure enough, it wasn't like, in general, right, when it comes to, bothering theaters and other things like that, I probably wouldn't support that. But the fact that that's probably the only way to be able to get anyone's attention in the theaters when you are, again, starting from scratch. When you are building, not only are you in production company to make the movie, but then you're also distributing the movie yourself. Movie theaters aren't just going to take any old person who says, oh, by the way, I'm a YouTuber and I've got this subscriber base. They're not going to really understand that. You call the theater, though, you show that there is actual interest in it, and that actually gets them to start listening. It's unfortunate that that's how it has to be, but that is unfortunately how it is. And now look what it's shown, right? It was a huge success. You think about how much money was spent on the movie, how much they've made back. Again, they've already made profit. Markiplier mentioned that from what he remembers of the distribution deal, it's a straight 50-50 split with theaters. So he's not acting like a Disney. Not that he would have necessarily the ground to do what Disney does, because obviously giant corporation Disney has a little bit more kind of, sway here. But Disney in their opening weekend will always be like, nope, it's like 90-10. So we'll get 90% of the box office. You'll get 10% because you know what? You'll get your box office. You'll get your money back theater chains from your concession sales, right? We're bringing the people to you. You should be thanking us, and so therefore we get the vast majority of the money. So the fact that he's already doing a 50-50 split, it's like, okay, that's cool. Also makes the whole calculation much easier. Now, my calculation is assuming an older model, and so it's actually even more successful in different ways. But again, it clearly worked, and now that he has proven himself, the next time if he decides to make another movie, the theaters won't have to go through that because they'll already be like, oh yeah, we remember working with you before. Abomination saying, Iron Lung is a massive passion project made by fans of the game, breaking a record apparently for the most blood in a movie. Looking at Hollywood, just race-swapping characters, third-grade writing. Exactly. It's like, we're not saying that this movie is breaking ground creatively. We're not saying that this is the best written thing ever. Again, I haven't seen it yet myself. It's not really my cup of tea. But I have to give kudos. I cover box office here, guys, right? I cover the math, I cover the numbers, and this is just, again, a very, very impressive run. And it's only been a few days since, again, you look at the Thursday premiere alone, and you can't help but be impressed. For a movie coming out of nowhere, essentially, to do that, and actually for a YouTuber to be able to motivate their audience. We don't see a lot of YouTubers doing that. There's a lot of YouTubers that try to make, movies and try to make money, but not all of them are successful. He is. Justin C. saying, evening all, looks like Markiplier Stuckman at the box office. Oh, absolutely. It's not even close. It's actually an embarrassment how much better this film has done versus what Stuckman's film did. And you look at all the steps that Stuckman took to get his film made. And again, he went out and did what he wanted to do. He had passion for his film too. So I'm going to give credit, obviously, to the fact that, okay, you made that. You did. But how you get there is just as important. All right. Catholic theology here, right? The ends do not justify the means. What you desire does not justify how you get to your desired thing, right? And what he had to do to get to where he wanted to be was he had to sell out his channel. He had to become a shill for Hollywood. He had to basically tell all the fans of his that had grown up with him enjoying his content because of the perceived honesty and because they thought, you know what, if a movie's bad, he will say that it's bad. He will list off the worst movies of the year. He will be honest with his criticism. He gave all that up just to try to placate Hollywood executives. Again, his logic is very, very flawed, okay? Because that already led to a massive exodus of people. Or at the very least, people that stayed on to be like, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. I guess if you're trying to make your movie, and what's happened since, right? It's just gotten even worse at this point. So, yeah, I have no qualms about pointing out the fact that in the opening day of Iron Lung, the opening domestic day for Iron Lung made more than the entire domestic opening weekend of Shelby Oaks. It has already, domestically alone, made 3 times the amount of the entire run of Shelby Oaks. And if you look at the total releases, yes, it had a more limited release when it started, but in the end, at least according to the numbers, it still got around 3,000 screens at one point, like as far as like total film screens out there. And I imagine Markiplier's might actually end up going up a little bit, but based on that alone, I mean, it's just night and day. All right, J.S. Pena. What's going on, good sir? Saying, quick question. Are we going to get clips for the best quote one-liner for the Raven Awards? Again, I would like to be able to do that, but as mentioned previously, it's always tricky when finding those clips, getting them edited out of the movies, getting them into a reel. Again, that's something where it's tricky, but it's doable. The bigger issue is YouTube. The bigger issue is the getting flagged for copyright infringement, even though it's under fair use. So I hope to be able to, but if not, obviously I will read them. They won't be up until the award show, though, if at all. Same thing also with the best stunt sequence as well. Abomination saying, I hope Mark makes a return of the tirade when the movie drops to number 11, bring back the same energy, but with it's double the one, it's one followed by another one. Yeah, it is kind of funny how he was kind of joking about how well it was doing, even though it was actually doing well. And then when it actually had a chance to, I mean, it was this close. We'll go ahead and dive into it, guys. Just that way we have an idea of just how close this movie was to embarrassing Hollywood even more. But also the fact that he had a Sam Raimi movie produced by 20th Century Studios, produced by Disney, and it almost beat it, not only domestically, but even globally in its opening weekend. If that is not a huge wake-up call for Disney, again, we say this all the time, if it's not a big wake-up call for Hollywood in general, I don't know what else would be. But obviously we already know, right, that they honestly don't. So, all right, let's go ahead, though, and dive into some numbers here because it's important for us to talk about these things. Let's get started.
Time to see a real math magician at work!
That's right, everybody. It's time for some math. To see a real math magician at work. And so I first wanted to point out, right, obviously we have the chart here of Send Help. This is the domestic total. We have the actuals now. And going into the weekend, the actuals were projected for Send Help to be $20 million. It's actually gone down to 19.1. Whereas Iron Lung was initially projected to have made around $18 to $20 million and actually ended up coming down to $17.8 million. So it was actually a smaller drop because, again, I think it was 18 being projected for Iron Lung. So a much smaller change there in difference versus that of Send Help. But just look at the numbers and how close they are. Again, Send Help, Sam Raimi directed, distributed by Disney, produced by Disney. First place, yes, but only $19 million in its domestic opening. At 3,400 screens, mind you. Compare that to Iron Lung, which made $17.8 million in its domestic opening at only 3,015 screens. So the per-theater ratio was actually a lot higher, a lot better for Iron Lung than it was for Send Help. So again, these are good news items for both films in different ways. The better news, of course, though, is for Iron Lung. Because Iron Lung, with this opening, is already broken even and making profit. Whereas Send Help, because it had a much larger budget, around $40 million or so, and it does not get, again, 100% of those box office receipts, is still quite a ways away from breaking even. I think that it has an outside chance. We'll see what the week 2 drop-off is. We'll also, of course, continue to follow Iron Lung because, you know, he mentioned in a video he didn't know how much longer it'd be in theaters or how many screens he would be in next weekend, but if they're somehow able to finagle because of the success of this weekend, right, how much better than it did than anyone may have expected it to, maybe they're going to be able to hold on to some more screens. Maybe even add on to some more screens. Maybe some theaters that are kind of struggling out there because Hollywood Fair has not been holding on very well, has not been performing very well at the box office. Maybe like, you know what, let's give Iron Lung a shot. Let's give this guy a shot. So that, of course, is the weekend actuals, and it got very, very close. There was definitely a chance for Iron Lung to have been able to pull off the upset here. But according to the numbers.com, at the very least, Send Help from Disney. But again, $40 million budget versus less than $3 million budget. Distributed by Disney, distributed by Markiplier directly. You tell me who you think is the winner in all of this, and I'll tell you, yeah, Iron Lung all the way. They do also have an update here. As I said earlier, the numbers.com was not reporting some of the daily box office numbers, and I know that I caught that and thought, oh, I didn't realize that this was a specialty release, only getting released on Thursday, Friday, and that might be the reason why. And if that is the case, hey, that's even more impressive. But then I know a couple of videos came out as well. There was some speculation as far as why these numbers weren't being reported. And of course, speculation always goes with, it's Hollywood, conspiracy theory, etc. Well, the numbers.com does have an explanation because I think it's important. So it says here, thank you to everyone who's been reaching out to us regarding our reporting on the great opening weekend for Iron Lung. We want to give an update about what we reported and acknowledge an error on our end. So the fact that they're admitting fault in the first paragraph is already reason for me to trust them even more, because it's not often that companies do that, and to do that right away and not try to excuse that is good. It says, over the weekend, we didn't receive official estimates for Iron Lung from Markiplier. The numbers we posted were were industry estimates based on trusted sources, including reporting in Deadline and Variety. We posted a weekend estimate at 8:34 a.m. I don't know why I don't have a colon there. We didn't have daily estimates until around 12:30 p.m. on Sunday and posted them as soon as we had them. So I don't know, 12:30 p.m. Eastern or Central Time, or maybe that's West Coast time. All I know is that when I was recording my video, which was around 2 p.m. Eastern time, those dailies were not there yet. It says, unfortunately, we ranked all movies in the Saturday and Sunday daily charts, even though we hadn't gotten estimates for Iron Lung. That may have created a false impression that we had stopped reporting on the film. We regret the error. We're working to get actual numbers from Markiplier, and have reached out to his team. If we receive numbers from them, we will mark them as actuals on the chart. If we don't, we will continue to mark them in green text, indicating that they are industry estimates. For our final charts, we only report numbers reported to us, and all our actuals come directly from the distributing studio. Perhaps most importantly, congratulations to Markiplier on an incredible achievement. We're excited to see a film like this bring people to theaters, and wish him the best for a continued strong run. So again, nothing but praise from Markiplier, and trying to explain kind of what is going on here. Now, the green number is still here. And so this tells me that this is still what the industry is saying the movie made. And so theoretically, you could potentially have this movie having a higher number. We'll have to wait and see. Again, the early industry estimates had it a little bit higher. But going into the weekend numbers, right, you can see that for a global total of $21 million in its opening, that's, again, just what's being reported right now. That could change. At least that's what, according to what the numbers themselves are saying, hey, we're still waiting, according to them. They're still waiting to hear back from that team. Let's see if there's a time on this. Doesn't look like the time is listed, but this is coming from Bruce Nash of the numbers. So nothing but praise, nothing but high praise for Markiplier and everything happening there. But yeah, now Markiplier, in that video I mentioned, had said he didn't really understand how all that worked. So I don't know if just the team members aren't up to date with that, if they don't have access to that. I imagine there might be some also confusion as far as the total numbers, because I think he did say, at least for like a theater or two, it was a little confusing when he mentioned this, but I know for at least one theater, he mentioned like comping concessions. Meaning, if you bought a ticket to the movie, that they would get concessions for free. So again, I don't know what type of metrics that are being used, if that's going to be kind of counted into this or not. Again, it's hard to know, or count against them in any way. So the fact, though, is if even the industry is saying it made $17.8 million, that's already impressive. Now, again, if we get updated numbers here, that will of course be what we cover. But you compare that again, we're talking about a $21 million global opening weekend for a film by a YouTuber that cost under $3 million to make and was distributed by him directly, by his team. Compare that to a massive Hollywood project in Send Help, which again, $40 million budget, and distributed by Disney, a massive corporation, and it made $27 million. So look at it. $6 million difference between these two movies, with millions upon millions of dollars separation between them. Lord knows the marketing budget for this film was a lot higher than what it was for Iron Lung. So the fact that it's only $6 million difference there, and only a few $1 million difference in the total domestic, that's just darn impressive. And because Markiplier, and rather in this case the numbers, have said the green number means it's just a industry estimate, we then don't know the official numbers then, at least not being reported by Markiplier. I don't know if he has made a video since then that has released those numbers, or what the deal might be. Let me know if you have more information than I do. But that at least explains why the numbers.com was kind of holding back a little bit. Now, they do now have in the dailies, right? That green number is still there, but these are, as I said, these are numbers being reported according to the numbers being reported by the industry. So by the likes of Deadline and Variety. So not coming from the, Markiplier's studio directly, right? Because they are the distributor on this movie. But according to the industry, it got second place on Sunday. It got second place on Saturday. It got first place on Friday. This is probably even the most impressive, that the fact that on Friday alone, it beat out Send Help. The fact that even one day of the weekend, a independent film beat out a Disney project is just darn impressive. Then, of course, you get the Thursday premieres, $3.5 versus $2.2 million. Not even close. I mean, again, impressive stuff here. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe these numbers get updated. Maybe we finally get something else. But what we can say for sure is whether it's this number or a little bit higher, what we can say for sure is that this thing destroyed Shelby Oaks. So Chris Tuckman, as we all know, mentioned this in my video several times, went off and sold his soul essentially, nerfed his channel in many ways, all for the sake of trying to pursue a career in Hollywood. Took years and years and years just to make it happen, did make it happen. So again, kudos for him for doing that. But at what cost? $6.1 million is what that film made in the entirety of its run, with a $2.3 million opening weekend domestically. Up against Iron Lung's $21 million global total so far after one weekend, and a domestic opening of 17.8. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Shelby Oaks got embarrassed, and as someone in the chat just mentioned, looks like Chris Tuckman went ahead and got Stuckmanized. All right, let's go ahead and head back into the chat. 740. We got Shorty Short saying, Send Help was very entertaining. Dylan O'Brien, dude, bro, laugh was amazing. Nice. Do you like Dylan O'Brien? Yeah, it's definitely a film I'm interested in checking out. Sam Raimi is a very talented director. Fallen off in more recent years, more so because of who he's working with versus himself. But it definitely sounds like it might be more up my alley than the typical fare. Caveat Ties had to say, it was nice here today. It was 30 degrees. Oh, yeah, we got up into the 40s today, which was quite balmy. Harbeck saying, now that Chris Stuckman and Markiplier have released movies, I'm curious to see what a movie from Asmongold will look like. Well, hey, if he has an interest. Gandalf, Kimberly G saying, howdy, Odin. Forgot to say that first thing. I know, right? Forgot to say hi. Thanks for being here. Prince Screen saying, the Meg 2 is not a bad movie. I will not tolerate such slander. Statham Bros Unite. So did you see the most recent Statham film? I heard it's just like all the others. Vivander, what's going on, Vivander? Greetings from Wisconsin. I hear it's pretty chilly in Chattanooga right now. It is. It is indeed. Not nearly as chilly as it was, though. Let's see. John Trevino, what's going on? I have seen the original. I've seen at least 2 or 3 of those. Forever Sci-Fi, as a Midwesterner, I've never gotten the groundhog thing. I always expect 2 more months of winter and for it to snow during at least one baseball game during opening week in April. Yeah. I mean, it's a fun tradition, and obviously the film Groundhog Day is great too, but yeah, whenever you start to fall into that, where if you actually believe that stuff, you're putting trust into something that is not God, and obviously I'm going to have an issue with that. See, Prince Green, saying, I guess we could say Markiplier didn't miss the mark. What's going on, John Trevino? Let's see. Hardwick saying, I'm happy to see Sam Raimi achieving success as a director again. I mean, it's too early to say full success. Obviously, number one film of the weekend's always good, but remember, it's not just about having the most money in a weekend. It's about, okay, but how much does this then compare to, and how much of a dent does this make into how much that we spent on the actual movie? As of right now, they are still not profitable. They are still not near profitability. Now, the budget not being that high is definitely a better thing, but it still has a ways to go. Now, we'll see what kind of drop-off, if any, we see next weekend, and we'll be able to make some projections on what the film will do. So, it's good to see him in a movie that, at the very least, is getting a lot of positive praise. So, I guess in that way, we could say it's more of a success in that fact. King and Rumsky saying, I was indeed thinking about not watching Meg 2 and even some other Statham movies over Lent. But then I remembered how pleasantly surprised you were with the Meg 2. Thanks. Oh, goodness. Just because of that does not mean that it's somehow now a good movie. Shorty Short saying, a best Groundhog Day movie moment has to be Phil punching Ned in the face. Mikey Dreamer. What's going on, brother? Saying, hey, Odin, I saw that Shout Factory is doing a 4K Steelbook release in April for Sky Captain World Tomorrow. Fun, underrated movie. It's a film I've actually never seen. It's been on my radar for a long time, but yeah. Prince Green saying, now we have to get Odin to make a movie. A movie about a young man that has to overcome his fear of pineapple pizza and the Meg 2. Co-starring his best friends, Steven and General Wingster. Man, that would be pretty terrifying. That would be pretty terrifying. Vivander then saying, or St. Thomas Aquinas might put it, the efficient cause did not justify the final cause. I got that. Let's see. Hardwick saying, it's interesting that Iron Lung is coming out the same time as Sam Raimi movie, as Raimi started out with an indie project funded with money borrowed from Dentist for The Evil Dead. Yeah, and also how he has changed in many respects. Oh boy, he's back, guys. Steven's back. DJ Elite 07. Steven. Good evening, brother. Glad to hear you survived the snowstorm from last week. I'm proud of myself. I've lost 15 pounds so far, getting ready for the spring semester. For college, I start in 3 weeks. Oh, man. I feel like he's always about to start something. It's kind of crazy that he's at a college that doesn't start again for 3 weeks. Again, I know he's explained it before. He probably will 1,000 times more. Anyway, Steven, starting what will likely be the first of a million questions, because that's just what he does. Steven saying, so it was just announced that there will be no Doomsday trailer for Super Bowl. When do you think we will see a teaser trailer for it? I honestly don't care. I'm going to be honest. Let's see. All right, Guillermo Gage, thank you very much for a $2 Rumble rant. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Saying, when you said it just because you can spend a lot of money doesn't mean that you should, invokes that Jurassic Park line from Jeff Goldblum and could also apply the Jurassic World movies. Totally agree. Just because you have the power, just because you have the potential, just because you have the ability does not necessarily mean that you should do that. Guillermo Gage, that applies to both James Cameron. Thank you for another Rumble rant. That applies to both James Cameron's Avatar and Jurassic World's movies, and their diminishing returns by hundreds of millions per movie. Absolutely. Just because you can make these advancements in technology does not necessarily mean that you should. One could also make the comparison to AI technology, right? Just because we can do these things doesn't necessarily mean that we should, or that we should be going as fast as we are with some of these technologies. I mean, we've already seen that AI has cost lives. People may not want to admit that or be open about that, but the fact is, because of guardrails not being in place for a lot of these new AI technologies, people have lost their lives because of it. And I think that the companies should be held responsible, because it's their job to ensure that, people's safety is confirmed. Shorty Short saying, be right back, Ice Cream Man. Ooh, Ice Cream Man. An ice cream man during the winter? I know that you're out in the Cali, but man, that's crazy. Steven saying, oh boy, the Odyssey movie's starting to look like it might flop. The cast is just bizarre. Plus, did you see who's cast to play Helen? That's right, Lupita Nyong'o. And I don't understand that. So here's the thing, all right? I think that if you're going to make the Odyssey, make the Odyssey. Be true to the story. If you want to make an adaptation, go ahead and make an adaptation. But don't call it the Odyssey and then cast actors in roles that they don't fit, that they don't suit. It would be like saying, I'm going to make The Color Purple, and then I'm going to cast an all-white cast. It's like, or even just one or two white characters saying, I want to make it more diverse, and so I'm going to go ahead and cast these roles. Like, no. That's not how it works. It's almost as if, okay, so unless a play, here's the big hypocrisy of it all, okay? Here's the big problem. If someone actually wrote a movie, if someone actually wrote a book or a play and specified the actors must be white, they'd be labeled a racist. Like, no question. They'd be labeled a racist. They'd be labeled as hateful. All the other names that you can throw at somebody, right? But if you see the opposite of that happen, right? If you see a black director casting almost entirely exclusively black actors and have roles that are written for black actors and saying, oh, they got to be black. It's okay. That wouldn't be called racist, though. All right? That wouldn't be called as being problematic. So I go back to Odyssey. It's like, so Odyssey was written at a very specific time in history with a very specific group of people, okay? Historically existing people, as far as the era that it was taking place in, who the writer of the Odyssey would have had in mind as well. So when you go ahead and try to put modern diversity into a movie called The Odyssey, which is meant to be an actual not just a retelling, but an actual showing of the story itself, you kind of got to be historically accurate. That being said, with people all hating on Lupita Nyong'o, saying like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? It's like, look, if you want to take issue with them clearly doing the whole race swap, clearly pushing modern diversity stuff in movies, and especially in specific films that you're just like, okay, no, this is not historically accurate in any way. Okay, that I think you have legitimacy in criticizing. But if you're going to be like, oh, she's so ugly, it's like, I'm sorry. I can't be with you there. I think she is a beautiful woman. Steven saying, do you think Avengers Secret Wars going to be in 2 parts? It wouldn't surprise me. Steven again, do you think the live-action Zelda movie will make $1 billion? It has the potential to. Lord knows it's a giant franchise. Lord knows if you look to the games alone, the only thing that could keep it from going there is because people like the Zelda franchise because they like to play as the character, right? They like to live in that world. And this is one of the issues that comes up with some video games. It's like, okay, some video games are just more fun to play than to watch a movie where someone else is playing it, right? Where someone else is making the decisions and you can't make those decisions for yourselves, okay? That being said, we've seen a lot of success in these movies, Mario movie being a great example of that. So I would say, yeah, I think that Mario kind of set the stage of, I think that's now the expectation. I think that if you have a major video game adaptation coming out in theaters, and it's at the same level of like total sales. Hold on 1 second. Willow, stop licking yourself. Sorry, my puppy's licking herself. Anyway, so you look to that and you think, okay, if you're gonna have an audience of a similar size as Mario or of these other things, $1 billion might actually be the standard. Where it's like, okay, if you don't hit the same mark, then you're not quite there. Short saying, my yogurt is more Greek than the cast of Nolan's Odyssey. Boom, there it is. DJ Elite saying, which films do you think will be the biggest flops for 2026? Hard to say. Again, someone mentioned earlier about how the Odyssey is going to flop. I think it's way too early to say that because, again, I could take issue with casting. I could take issues with the creative decision-making going on by Nolan. Nolan is still Nolan, though, all right? And if Nolan knows how to do anything, it's how to promote a movie. I think this might be the most controversial, though, of the films that he has made, because normally people have the sense of comfort. We're like, it's a Nolan movie. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like Tenet. Yeah, I didn't like this or that. But you know what? It's still Nolan, and those trailers just make me comfortable, right? There's a comforting factor there because he usually makes really good trailers. I don't feel like these are getting the same reaction. It could be because of the casting choices. Could be because of the way the trailers are being cut. Could be a bit of both, right? But hard to say. So whether it be a flop or not, I think it's way too early to tell. Remember, most normie audiences do not live in our space. So the same cultural issues that we have and the knowledge that we have of casting, normies won't have any knowledge of or won't nearly care as much about. Because they'll say, all right, Nolan directing is of this importance to me. The, mental illness of one of the actors on screen is at this level, right? So most people aren't really going to care, okay? All right, Steven saying, as far as what's going to be the biggest flop, I don't even know. I would have to have a list in front of me, and you already make me answer a million questions, so I'm not going to do that extra work for you, man. If you've been here for a while, you understand why the salt is being thrown his way. All right, Steven then says, are you excited? Here's Steven again. Are you excited for the Stranger Things animated show that's going to be out soon, taking place between season 2 and 3? Not really. Guillermo Gage, thank you very much for the Rumble Rant, saying, to be fair, Chris Duckman's subscriber base and fan base is like 2 million versus Markiplier's 38 million, and Iron Lung is based on one of the video games that Markiplier played. This is true, but I would not say that the game was a mainstream game. It sounded very much like a more cult classic type level of popularity, for one. Two, you just look at, again, the amount of money spent. If you are someone of Markiplier's size, you had an idea early on of, here's how much money I can reasonably spend to make my money back, okay? He had to make those decisions. Stuckman looked at his subscriber base and thought, oh man, I could do so much more, and spent way more than what he should have, okay? And I think that because he got in touch with and got, certain people on to executive produce the movie and to get distributed by Neon and all those other things, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that kind of went to his head with that. So anyway, I understand what you're saying, but just the comparison between them, as soon as you bring up the budget and you bring up the return on investment factor, it's not even close. The whole like, oh, well, the subscriber base, of course, this one did better. It's like, it's not just that it did better total box office. It did that without having a studio like Neon distributing the movie, without having a major Hollywood filmmaker as your executive producer, and all the other things that go along with it. All right. Geek Truth 64. What's going on, Geek Truth? Welcome back. Saying, I wonder if Send Help was any good. Haven't heard too much about it. And it's January. It is a January release. Yeah, it's one of those end of January, February releases. It's gotten some pretty, I would say, it sounds pretty even to me. Even actually more positive than anything else. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull these up. Man, I want for not just for Critic List, but for all sites where it's like a movie. If you misspell something, it's like, you need to have some type of algorithm where it's like, we can figure it out, okay? We have the technology these days for y'all to be able to figure out one misplaced word, right? So anyway, going over to Critic Lists, again, one of the sites that I trust on these things. As you can see here, let me go ahead and get the comment off the screen. Thank you again, Geek Truth, for being here, though. So as you can see, right now over Critic Lists, it has a 76% rad score. This is Send Help, with 22 votes. That's a pretty... that's a pretty good number of votes for a film. So this score is probably pretty accurate. So we're talking probably about a pretty solid movie overall based off of this. You go ahead and compare that to Iron Lung. Iron Lung, with 15 votes, has a 70% rad score. So this is definitely a film that is kind of like a love or hate type film. You go to the comments, you got a couple of 100% or very high scores. Again, I think any film getting that is a bit crazy to me. Benology, shout out to Ben, saying 75% rad. American Hero, 70% rad. Zudi Koot saying it's a 50% decent movie. It sounds about right. I do like when it's more kind of pinned in there. You have then a most excellent, a rad score, another decent score. You got a couple of bogus scores in there too, but it looks like those reviews are actually going to be pretty, pretty fair. It says major props for making this thing rated R. It had grit and a darker tone, awesome production value. Everything looked old and lived in. So it's looking like, again, some people just didn't necessarily like the direction. Saw this one last night, looked forward to it because it was made by another fellow YouTuber. It's been exciting to see what other content creators are doing in this creative arena of filming, but unfortunately, I wasn't impressed with this one. And again, I feel like that is pretty fair. So again, a bit of a mixed bag here, but more predominantly towards the positive side. And so, again, I've heard good things about Send Help, and hearing good things about Iron Lung as well. Matt Damon. Steven then says here, your thoughts on the title for the last Fast and Furious movie being called Fast Forever, being released March of 2028. Well, I mean, those movies take a lot of money to make. There's a lot of, actual car fight and car stunt sequences in there, so that's going to take a lot of time too. So I'm not surprised by that 2028. In all honesty, it might be for the better, because one of the issues with the more recent films is I think they've been released kind of closer to each other, and so you just feel like you're getting the same thing over and over and over again. And honestly, you essentially are, right? You essentially are getting the same thing over and over again, but absence makes the heart grow fonder, as the saying goes. And so when you don't have a Fast and Furious movie, and all of a sudden it's now years later and you get one, Fast Forever, I think that actually makes sense. And again, if it is truly the last movie, that would, I think, be a perfect title. Mikey Dreamer saying, when I was standing in line to scan my ticket for Shelter, heard several behind me excited to see Iron Lung. By the way, Shelter was an entertaining film. Okay, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Prince Green saying, I'm not opposed to the race swaps in Odyssey, but having Travis Scott in the movie is just weird. It seems really distracting to me. Putting a rapper in there seems a strange to me. I think that is a legitimate criticism. I think that's totally legitimate. Let's see. Prince Green saying, I did see Shelter, and it was definitely a Statham movie. Actually, one of his better ones recently, though. Okay. Because I feel like I heard a lot more positive praise for like The Beekeeper. And there was another one he did last few years as well that was pretty well received for the most part too. I feel like I heard more about those movies than I am about this movie. I don't feel like a lot of people are seeing this one. Let me pull up what on Critic List, because this is usually a pretty good metric. So it has a lot of the normie audience. Oh, hey, I'm actually surprised. I actually didn't think it was going to be. So it got 12 votes. So it's definitely getting some traction here. So 12 votes, 76% rad score. That's actually surprisingly high. So you got a lot of rads, some most excellence in there. Pretty much all the lowest grade I see is rad. So that's definitely amongst the normies. It definitely seems to be, making its mark, pretty well known. But let me see. Yeah, you had films like A Working Man and The Beekeeper as well. So in the case of Working Man, that film had 101 votes. So a lot more people saw that one. A 66% rad score there. Beekeeper had 77 votes with a 65% rad score. So obviously that's since the film has been released. That was released in 2024. Working Man in 2025. So more reviews actually for A Working Man than for Beekeeper. I think it also speaks to the growth of critic lists over the last couple of years. So a lot more people active on the platform in 2025 than in 2024. So that helps to explain kind of, that. But pretty similar all around. So 65%, 66%. As I said, currently, if you look to his most recent release, Shelter, it's at a 76%. So I think right now it's a bloated score because it only has 12 votes, whereas the other ones had 77 to over 100. So it's sounding like it's about the same. So that's a good thing, though, right? That's actually good. It means that if it's as good or on the same level as Beekeeper or as Working Man, then it could be a good thing. But as I said, I don't think the number is going to get as high. I don't think that the total number of people watching it is going to get as high. JS Beatty says, I understand if you can't. I was just curious. I'm trying to remember. It's been now a while since I've addressed that. And so now my mind has gone blank. Context. Steven saying, legendary iconic actress Catherine O'Hara sadly passed away. Which was your favorite iconic role from her? For me, it was Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, yeah, I think that it was a role too. I had no idea for most of my life that was her. And then as soon as you see that it's her, you're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. Because you can hear the voice there. But yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace. My perpetual light shine upon her. To the mercy of God, may she rest in peace. It's always sad when we lose our family members mostly, right? Especially, but when you lose, especially if you're a fan of movies, you're a fan of shows, and actor passes away, it's just one of those things where it's part of your childhood that passes, right? It's a part of your growing up. It's a part of your identity in a way, right? Because a lot of us, I'm sure, grew up loving Beetlejuice. I saw that's what Junk 3PO and the guys are watching for their Monday night stream, and it's such a fun movie, and she is a huge part of that. That's one of my favorite, at least her live action performances. There, gotta go, of course, with Home Alone, because just her screaming "Kevin" is just so iconic. And obviously, yeah, Sally, I think that's definitely gonna be up there as well from Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, she's just very talented. Just could do almost anything. And to think about just the different roles that she played, it would be hard to think of them all. Geek264 saying, we have a Cobra Kai complete Blu-ray set releasing next month. A big surprise coming from next. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I thought I noticed that as well. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, getting physical media. I mean, I hope Netflix starts to consider doing more. I mean, honestly, it's not gonna really bite into their bottom line. Because people are still going to Netflix. They're still going to go to the streaming because it's just the convenience of it. But you add physical media, and now you're just making more money. Now, maybe if they view it as a dying industry and everything, I don't know. Can you get Rumsky is laughing at print screen. Banjo Sandwich saying, it's my first year, one today with zero alcohol, with this being my first year in 40 years, clear of any substance. Boom! Gary Banjo Sandwich. Worthington. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Appreciate you. Thank you for sharing that with us, man. And so proud of you. So congratulations to the Banjo Sandwich himself. Sobriety is a beautiful thing. So congratulations. All right, let's see. Steven tagged to say, Steven again. Remember in Cali, college have semesters, 16 weeks. They're not quarters. Colleges have semesters in general, though. It's called a fall and spring semester. You can have a semester start in January, or at the very least, the end of January. So spring and fall semester, 12 units, you can enroll, but it's summer and winter, you can only enroll 6 units back. That's right. You're on your own schedule. Forgot about that. PK, welcome back. Again, if you have a comment or question you want read aloud, just put at Odin there, everybody comment. At Odin, unless we know you're trying to get my attention. Unless, of course, you're a member here on the channel. Hardwick saying, I bought the non-steelbook 4K of Sky Captain World tomorrow last year. One of my favorite movies, but I don't know if you'll like it since it's heavily visually stylized. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I didn't see it initially, was because I did not really like the visual effects. It kind of bothered me. Her Sci-Fi saying, Nolan sold out to remain award eligible. He got stuck in my eyes. I think that's a great way of putting it. You've seen the cracks for a while now. It looks like to me, though, the casting of this one is pointing there all the way. If the movie itself comes out and it does not live up to the same standard that he has kind of set, yeah, I think that definitely would be a big thing. Steven saying, Elon Musk says Christopher Nolan has no integrity after casting for The Odyssey. The thing with me, though, with all that is it's not like the casting hasn't been known. I know that like trailers are being released now, and so it's getting a little bit more attention, but I feel like a lot of the casting we've already known about. So that's why when I see people freak out about it, I'm like, we've known this. Where have y'all been? It's like when people were like, let's cancel Netflix because of all the nonsense they've done. It's like, where were y'all when Cuties came out? It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Prince Green saying, it's kind of is a shame when people hate on an actor just for being in a movie. This is how we got stuff like what happened to Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best. Prince Green, it's an excellent point. And that's why I try my best to not go after people like that, unless there's a reason. Like if you are like Mark Ruffalo, for instance, where, okay, you're kind of asking to be criticized, okay? You're opening yourself up to it. Where, as in, Jake Lloyd's case, Ahmed Best's case, and, with now in this case, talking about Lupita Nyong'o, there's nothing that she or they have done that has warranted the type of backlash and the type of hatred that you're seeing. Again, be critical of the decision from Nolan, because again, this is a decision Nolan made. You could say casting directors, but hey, he is the head honcho, and we all know very few people in Hollywood have as much control of their films as Nolan does. Nolan is able to do things a lot of other filmmakers are not able to because of just, again, the standard that he has set and the amount of pull that he obviously has in Hollywood. So, yeah, I don't like when people are going after, especially when they're going after her for looks. It's like, really? Look, if you're going after the casting, not being historically accurate, completely legitimate. If you're going to try to say that this person's ugly, it's like, I'm sorry. That's a step too far. Caveat Ty is saying, Zelda could be the next Lord of the Rings if they do it right. I don't think they will, but they could. Yeah, they could. I just hope they don't go the route of Mario. I know some people like the Mario Brothers movie, the animated one, and some are even excited for the one that's coming up. For me, though, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want some big name actors being cast in roles to, make it into something that's not what the original character was. As I said, you're not getting Bowser, you're getting Jack Black. You're not getting Donkey Kong, you're getting Seth Rogen. The early footage, or rather, in this case, the early photos for this are very promising because you actually have actors that look like the part, that actually fit that. So if they can continue that in their casting and have someone that can actually tie a story together as well, could be good. Steven, do you think the new Michael Jackson movie will reach $1 billion? I don't. At this early stage, I don't. There's nothing for me to think that. Again, he has a lot of fans, but just because he has a lot of fans does not mean that all of a sudden it's, that he's going to make money. Rather that the film is going to make money. Banjo Sandwich also just posted a review of Shelter. He must have thought like, oh, Odin was just checking this out. I should probably take advantage and post this. That way maybe he'll see it. Maybe he'll have the window still open. I have a lot of concerns over this. Okay. Yep. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. This is why I can't take him seriously. He gave it a 50%. He and his obsession with the number of 50 is just insane. Gosh. Oh, man. He was like, wait a minute. I have the perfect score to drive that score down a little bit. Oh, man. Always with the 50, man. Always with the 50. But anyway, no, I don't think it's going to make $1 billion. I could look up further data on that, but I won't. Abomination, their obsession with race-swapping characters for the sole purpose of generating controversy and calling people racist shows they think black people exist just for rage bait. I mean, it definitely does not make them look good. That's for sure. Tony Wingster saying, look, Nolan just needs Tom Hardy in a mask, and it's a hit. Yes! Prince Green, for what it's worth, IMAX 70mm tickets for the Odyssey are sold out a year in advance. Take it with a grain of salt, since it's probably just Nolan fanboys. Also, probably a lot of scalpers. There were already tickets being sold on eBay and other places for an insane amount of money. So we already know, right, that yes, part of it was absolutely some ground roots, legitimate stuff, but not all of it. So also remember that, you know, people made that decision based off of very little information. As more information gets released, as more trailers come out, people might change their minds. All right, let's go ahead and start to slow comments down. Steven, please don't talk anymore, all right? Because we're going to try to wrap things up. Like last week, I was trying to make a shorter show. I'm going to try to see if we can, you know, make a shorter show maybe this week. All right. Banjo Sandwich saying, The Oddity is what they should have called this new Nolan movie. Definitely would have been better than The Odyssey. Micah Dreamer, which animated film do you think will do better at the box office, Goat or Hoppers? Those are films coming out. Honestly, I don't know much about either. I'm going to go with Hoppers since it's likely a Easter movie, but I have nothing about those. Cthulhu, bearing budgets and inflation in mind, which will make more, Cleopatra or Odyssey? Oh, goodness. Because isn't Cleopatra's budget like massive? Gosh. They both need to make quite a bit of money, so I would have to see the budgets in front of me, and since we don't have any really good early, it's still a little too far out for tracking. I don't know. Steven, oh boy, this is the year we will have Star Wars back in theaters after 7 years. Do you ever think the hype will return as we get closer to the release date and still no buzz? No, I don't. I really don't. This is going to be one of the most disappointing releases in the history of cinema, and definitely in the history of Star Wars. I don't think it's going to be the lowest grossing Star Wars movie. I think that it likely will do better than Solo, a Star Wars movie. I don't think that's going to be a hard thing to do. You know, baby Grogu, right? Little Grogu has some pull, but not nearly as much as it once was. And the Mandalorian is not as hot of a show as it once was. They you know, pushed out a lot of their audience. They scared off a lot of their audience with subpar storytelling and other really bad decisions. So it's, you know, too hard to say, I think, at this point. But what I will say is I don't think the hype's going to come back. I definitely don't think that's going to happen. Harvey saying, if you ever do decide to watch Captain World tomorrow, I would actually recommend watching the bonus features before the movie. The story behind the movie is interesting. I prefer to watch the movie first. Harvey saying, Rachel McAdams recently got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Sam Raimi was one of the people who gave a speech, and he started with Doc Ock's rubber band joke from Spider-Man 2. Nice. He then says, did anyone lose a roll of $5 bills in a rubber band? Because we found the rubber band. That's right. All right, Steven, this is the last one I'm taking from you tonight, man, because you've overdone it again. Says, I know you don't like talking politics, but I'm curious, are there protests going on in your city, let alone your school? Because over here in Cali, it's pretty bad. All these high schools are. I mean, luckily, we don't really have that. The high schoolers here really aren't as motivated, at the very least, not that I'm aware of. And in the city, we have people that have been out on the street every Monday from like 4 to 6 p.m. Every Monday, they are out there. And it's this one section of the city. And as I said, they've been doing this for years, like since I've been up here. So they're just like, most of them are these older hippie generation people that have usually very generic signs up like justice now. And then whenever something's happening, then they start to have more pointed signs, and then other people start to like join them for whatever the protest of the day might be. But it really is, again, something so small, like the size of the, you know, quote unquote protest is minimal. And all they're getting is the people to honk at them. And to me, it's like, okay, so literally you have such a massive ego. You think, I am so important, I'm going to put this on a sign so that people will honk at me to validate my feelings, to validate my thoughts, so that way I feel better about myself. It's sad. It honestly is sad. Because the question is, whose mind are you changing? No one. So what is the point? Do you have the right to do it? Yes, you have a right to free speech. But whose mind are you actually changing when you hold up generic signs calling ICE Nazis? It's like, I'm sorry, like if someone already believes that, they're going to continue to believe that. And if someone doesn't believe that, they're just going to get more frustrated by it. They're like, what are you talking about? There's no room for nuanced discussion. There's no room for any of that. It's ridiculous. Geek Truth. As usual, I'm editing a video while watching. Missed the last few weeks here, but back again. Thanks. Hey, thank you. MC Campia, M Campia, you fan. Welcome. Morak, Fast Forever, releasing in 2028. Given current Hollywood, it will be rebooted in 2031. Actually, I would say it'll be delayed because there's probably a strike coming up. Justin C. Wonder if February will offer better movie releases than January, though February is also a dead month for film. It is. It's typically not much better, but there's usually a little bit more life. Usually a little bit more life in February. Micah Dreamer saying, Shelter has been distributed by a relatively new studio called Black Bear Pictures. Not too new. They've been around for a bit. So it's not getting as much promotional as several other films more recently. But yeah, they've distributed quite a number of movies in their short existence. King Yaremsky, are you jealous of Jason Statham? You always seem to be downplaying his genius. Of course, yes. Hardwick, Send Help currently has the highest Rotten Tomatoes critic rating of any Sam Raimi movie for whatever that's worth. It's not worth anything, in fact, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Guillermo Gage for the Rumble Brand saying, I'm not saying that Iron Lung is a famous video game, but pretty much the entire fan base of Markiplier knows about him specifically playing that specific game, or I think most of them do. Again, the points still don't change from anything before. Eclu saying, Netflix only cares about being a monopoly, not making money. That's a good point. Guillermo Gage saying, I'm aware of the Neon and Mike Flanagan advantage that Chris Stuckman had. Again, that to me is a much bigger factor. And again, you have to look at the total box office versus how much was spent. And then you add into that those other factors right there. And again, that's why it's no contest. That's why there is absolutely a massive difference there. And should be called out. Prince Green, I wanted to see Nolan do an original idea again. The past two Nolan movies have been adaptations. Good point. Sacre Bleu. What's going on, Sacre Bleu? The Deadly Poke of Zorro. What's going on, Sacre Bleu? Hello, Odin. My Odyssey boycott began with the hiring of Travis Scott, not because he's a rapper, but because he has an accidental body count larger than Alec Baldwin's R.I.P. Astroworld victims. Oh, goodness. Oof. Hardwick, to your point about casting unknowns, I think it was a good choice to go with an unknown for the He-Man actor as well. Yeah, I mean, in general. Honestly, though, I was kind of thinking that they might have done well to do some, like, again, whether you agree with me or not is kind of, but wasn't at one point the casting going in a different direction? I feel like they were casting someone else in that role at one point. I don't know why Zac Efron comes to mind. Or maybe he was in a... No, was that Zac Efron doing the Hollywood Hogan movie? I don't know. But I know, Zac Efron got, Zephron. He got, obviously, bulked up to do the Iron Claw. But I feel like he was planning to do something else, too. He was already that large. It's like, might as well. I feel like that he might have been a decent shot for that. But yeah, going unknown could work. It could work. Definitely could. Frank G saying, hello, any thoughts on how big of a box office bomb the next weekend's Strangers Chapter 3 will be? It'll probably make less than the last one did, and that one made less than that one, so it wouldn't surprise me. Micah Dreamer, Goat is from Sony with Steph Curry as producer about a goat who plays basketball. Hoppers is the latest Pixar film. Yeah, I think Pixar typically has a better record. Again, not always guarantee, obviously. We've seen examples of this in the past. Disney has fallen far, far from grace. And, oh boy, Steph Curry, I don't know. Sounds like really bad CGI. Forever Sci-Fi, let Steven ask more questions. I bet on the over. Nope. I'm not reading them. Short saying O'Hara was great in Schitt's Creek. I've heard great things. James Kowski, so far Disney Pixar film Hoppers is tracking lower than Elio. Oof. Oh boy. Jenna Waster, I have a very important question. I forgot. Did Solo lose money? It did. Even more impressive is the fact that the last Star Wars film, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, lost money too. That's how big the budget was. They made over $1 billion, and they lost money. Cthulhu, what's your thoughts about the monks walking to D.C. from Texas for peace? Interesting to do that in the wintertime. It's awesome. I love that. I feel like that has much more of an impact than the protesters just standing out in the corner. MC Ampia fan, yeah, I mean, it's like I read it different every time too, because I'm like, every time I get to it, I'm like, okay, M Campia, you fan? MC Ampia, you fan? MC Campia, you fan? I don't know. Prince Screen saying, guys, Odin isn't jealous of Statham, but just doesn't want us to know the two are secretly brothers. Yeah, of course. It's because we're bald. Is that what it is? Oi, it's a megalodon. I think I've mentioned this before, but in some of the imagination play with my kids, like with my son especially, one of the characters that I do is totally inspired by Statham. It's a scuba diver. So whenever the scuba divers do anything, like, oi, I'll get my ship. And I'm always trying to channel my inner Statham. So, yes, it is too quiet because we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. And we're going to go ahead and wrap things up there tonight, guys. So thank you all very much for watching. Always fun to do these shows. Obviously, Iron Lung has been doing very, very well, so kudos to Markiplier. It's good to have some information as far as why the numbers wasn't reporting them. So hopefully, Markiplier's production company, in this case, distribution company, is able to give some official numbers there. And again, the numbers.com did not have anything at that point in time. Let me see if Deadline is going to be reporting anything. Says, okay, so looks like we do have, okay, so Disney Send Help, according to the actuals, according to Deadline, Send Help made $19.1 million, and Iron Lung has now made $18.3 after a better than expected $4 million Sunday. Can't emphasize enough the success here for Iron Lung in regards to its under $3 million production cost and low thousands spent on PA. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, yeah, that's that's insane. So yeah, its spend, its marketing was very low. Gosh, that's crazy. So this, yeah, it's a big, again, it's not looking like this is officially being reported. Markiplier's over the moon about the box office weekend. He's got some fun videos out there. Whatever happens, wherever it lands, it's been the most fun weekend I've had in a long time, because obviously he was like, man, there could be a chance. Iron Lung and Melania appeal, but expect their second weekend to decline to 60%-ish in a sluggish Super Bowl frame, which will be led by Send Help, which will be down at around 50%. It'll be interesting to see. So again, they're tracking that up, but the article is not saying anything specific about whether that's the official reporting or what have you. So anyway, just wanted to give that last update there. Anyway, let's go ahead and say hello, or sorry, let's say good night to our people in the chat as we head out. Forever Sci-Fi, good night to you. Geek64 saying Jason Statham in the Big Daddy spinoff Scuba Steve. Justin C says good night to you, CNFNT. Absolutely. Cthulhu, you have a good night as well. King of Rumsky saying, now I get your jealousy. Thanks so much. How dare you? General Wingster saying, Odin loves his wife, but he loves Jason. How dare you? General Wingster, and I end as number one. Good night, everybody. Oh, dang. Prince Green also saying good night. So thank you all very much for watching, guys. Been a lot of fun. Again, Markiplier, congratulations, man. This is awesome. And yeah, let's hope that this can lead to more people following their dreams, pursuing their passions, but also doing so responsibly and not overspending and not expecting themselves to somehow make more, as my microphone's now acting silly, do better than they have any right to be. So anyway, thank you all very much for watching. No, Steven, I already told you, dude. This is why you don't listen. Clearly, you just put stuff in the chat. You don't actually listen. I told you. I'm cutting you off. That's why I haven't read any of your questions. So my microphone is now being silly. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching this evening, everybody. I love you guys. I'll have my February shoutouts video, hopefully updated in the next couple of days. By the way, if you are in the giveaways channel over on the Discord server because you are a Keeper of the Bifrost level member or above, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for falling behind on those, but I will definitely make those up. I promise. It's just been crazy times. So anyway, thank y'all very much for that. Thank y'all for being amazing. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. A rest of your evening. And as always, God bless. And now let me give a shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my Patreon members, Father Luca Illich, hail to you, Father, and also to Miss Mountain Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Mountain Muses. She is very lovely, great, awesome Catholic faith-based content over there. You'll also find over on Subscribestar my member Matt317. He is on Twitch with the same channel name, Matt317. Shout out to you, good sir. And also to a longtime member here, Mr. Roy, my Chosen of Valhalla member here on YouTube. Mr. Roy, thank you for always hanging out and for always being a part of this channel. It does mean a lot, as well as it does for all of my Chosen of Valhalla members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream or video, or if you want it listed in that list that was playing just before, just now, check out the top link in the video description below. You'll find out how to get those types of shout outs at the end of every live stream and video. Not to mention, you get access to bonus video content and also access to a Discord server where there are a couple of channels on there where I do giveaways every single month. In fact, I do multiple giveaways every single month. I try to make it so that I'm giving away Blu-rays and 4Ks that make up at least 4 or 5 different giveaways. Sometimes I have to put them in all towards the very end because back in the school session, of course, now means that I'm going to be a little bit more delayed there. So if you want access to things like that, if you want access to a great community, you guys seriously are all amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.